Good evening. I am very excited to be on tonight with Transformation at the Core, Episode 8. We have a fantastic guest this evening, Noel Walsh, who is an extraordinary relationship seller. He is a fantastic sales trainer, a motivator that really allows your sales people, individuals, and associates to elevate their sales process. So I'm going to kick it off right away by bringing Noel on, and I know I'm not doing much justice by explaining who he is, and he could probably do it a heck of a lot better. So let's bring Noel to the table here. Good evening, Noel. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening. Thanks for having me, Katie.
Oh, it's such an honor. Thanks for coming on. You got to love the power of social media and how we met. We really have been back and forth following each other, and then you finally reached out to me, and it was really cool that we could be here today together.
Yeah, no, it is. Social media is powerful. It makes the world a lot smaller if you're willing to utilize it and really get out of your comfort zone and really connect with the resources, the connections, the people, the relationships available. You know, just like anything is possible.
It's very cool. So thanks so much for being on. I know you're giving up some family time right now, and I really, really appreciate it.
Once again, it's a pleasure to be on tonight.
Fantastic. Okay, so why don't you tell the audience a little bit about you? What are the top 3 things they need to know about you?
Yeah, so my name is Noel Walsh. So I am the CEO of NWA Conquer What You Chase Sales Training. I also have Conquer You online automotive sales training. I've been in the automotive industry really as long as I can remember. My grandfather was the head of Ford Steel. My mom's dad owned a Dodge dealership in Detroit. My dad was up to a GM level at the retail end. My stepdad was a service manager. So I grew up in dealerships around the automotive industry my whole life. I got into sales this time back in 2000, and so I was in automotive sales for 16 years. I had the privilege of working at Varsity Ford, which is the number 3 Ford dealership in the nation, where there was 45 salespeople, 3 sales managers, and 3 finance managers. So really, as salespeople, you were your own business. And they spent a lot on marketing, but they didn't hold any hands. They didn't want to hear when you had a bad day. They just gave you all the resources. They gave you a desk, a phone, and said, kind of go with it. Mm-hmm. And so that's really where I hit my stride. I was able to become the top automotive sales professional. And then I remember all the salespeople would always come up to me because I was just more efficient in certain ways when it came to knowing the programs, knowing how to structure a deal, knowing the incentives, knowing how to find things. Mm-hmm. So they would always come to me, and I'm like, wait, like I don't mind helping, but remember, like I'm the busiest guy here, right? Mm-hmm. And like I've got my own business to run. Like I don't get paid to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody holds my hand, so like I'll be helpful when I can, but like this can't derail my train. So between going through that and seeing how much salespeople really look up to me, how much I inspired them and motivated them, and how quick they learned from me. And I have customers all the time who are like, wow, we bought 10, 12, 15 vehicles. And they're like, every experience has been horrible. And they're like, we actually enjoyed this experience.
That's rare.
I remember I would get customers so hooked, I would call them. Like, I tell my wife, I'm like, honey, they're addicted to me because they'd be calling me like 13 months into a 2-year lease. And they're like, hey, can we come in and get another one? I'm like, whoa, it's still a little early,
which
you just got your tag. Let's just wait a minute.
I hate to cut it off. I'm just getting a few comments here, and you gotta love technology. They're saying your echo is a little bit is when you speak, there's a little bit of an echo. So do we want to maybe put on some headphones?
Yes.
I know when we tested it out, you heard a little bit of an echo. So the audience is speaking. So I want to make sure we tailor this for them.
Oh, that's what it's for.
Right? It's not about us. It's about them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Douglas. Thanks for joining. Who else do we have on right now? We have Anthony. Thank you. Bill, thank you for letting us know about the echo. Really appreciate it. As we have some technical changes. Is it just Noel's echo, or is it mine as well? Can you guys let me know? All right, well, Noel figures that out. I really want to bring this home and really talk about how we're going to relate relationship selling to the customer experience, because that's what Transformation at the Core is really about. This show is really about transforming that transactional experience and turning it into an interaction that customers can't live without. And just in that little example that Noel was just saying is that, you know, these customers thought, wow, this is like one of the best experiences I've ever had when purchasing a vehicle. It's really cool to see how you change and tweak how you sell really impacts the experience that customers have when they're with you. All right, Noel, are we ready? Are we all set up?
I think we're all set up. If I look good, I sound good, I'm ready to rock.
All right, everyone, let us know if there is any more echo. If there is, we'll try to fix it, but let's keep going. All right, go on.
Yes, I remember where I was. So my customers were like, you should train salespeople how to do this. And there's my partner at work. We were the top 2 sales professionals at the dealership. We were all always competitive. And we were always kind of talking about, like, we should create a business, we should do some kind of business together, we should, create something more than this also. And at first it kind of started as a collaboration, but he didn't want to put any effort in. He just wanted to, like, talk about it. So I kind of took it by the horns. I came out with Conquer What You Chase, sales training, got my LLC for my company, got business credit cards, and started training from there. And so I started my training in 2010, and I still sold cars until 2016. So I was kind of moonlighting my sales training, and it was in 2014. My wife and I always talked about moving somewhere a little bit warmer, and I've always thought it's a big world out there to kind of keep yourself captured in one spot. And so we always talked about moving somewhere warmer, and we just, my father had mentioned St. George, Utah, and we came out here for vacation, and we're like, it's an hour and a half from Vegas. The cost of living is cheap. The weather's good all year. It's the Southwest, like good schools, like this, and that. And I looked at my training material one day, and I thought, I was doing really well selling cars. I was going to have my house paid off by the time I was 50. I was set, right? I had the American dream, the Midwest dream especially. Because that's where I lived in Michigan, that was like success in its fullest. And so I looked at my training material, and I'm like, I'll never leave this unless I leave this. So we moved to St. George, Utah, didn't know anyone, packed up, had a semi, had movers come in, pack up a semi, move our stuff across the country. And I called into work because in the car business, you don't really give your 2 weeks. It's kind of like, when you're done, like, okay, it's over, like cut the ties, like, it's done. So I called into work, and because the road got washed out, so my travel plans got pushed back a couple days. And I called into work, and they're like, where are you? And I'm like, yeah, we got Grace enrolled for a new school. And she's like, well, which one is it? And I said, Little Valley. She's like, oh, where's that at? I go, St. George. She's like, St. George? I'm like, yeah, Utah. So the moral of the story is, though, I still went back to Michigan and sold cars for the last 2 weeks of the month. And still was at 80-90% of my production, only working the last 2 months or 2 weeks of the month, and doing it on my terms also. Yeah. So what I do is I hate to peg myself, like when people say, what's your style of training or selling? And I always say it's relationship based, right? Because I'm all about getting in there, breaking down barriers, getting the objections out, getting them comfortable, right? Letting them know who you are, getting them in a part of some kind of process and really loosening and softening them up. But in my training, I've got over 88 courses and 1,200 training modules for 55 hours. But I'm always talking about, building the relationship with that customer, right? Not being afraid to ask the uncomfortable things, because we can never move forward, if we're all just like, hi, I like you, you're nice. I was saying to somebody the other day, I said, if everybody likes you, I go, you're being fake, right? Because nobody likes, nobody's going to be liked by everybody, right? So it's, but it's breaking down those barriers, building the relationships, and I just walk it through, a step process, starting out early in your career, ongoing training, closing in capacity, expert level, fundamentals, prospecting, motivation, leadership, just touch base on all that. But my style always stays the same, and the message that I'm driving home is and this is what I always teach. It doesn't matter what you value, it matters what the customer values.
And
really it's your job to find that out and to give them that experience, and they will be more than happy to pay a fair price every time.
Oh my gosh, and I could not agree more. I talk a lot about flipping the lens and putting yourself in your customer's shoes. And that's really what it's about, is it's no longer matters what you think is a great experience. It only matters what the customer feels is a great experience. And without that, it's useless and pointless, because your customer, doesn't matter how hard you try to sell them, they're going to walk away disliking the feeling that they've had, and they're never going to say yes. And it doesn't matter how inexpensive your product is, they're not going to feel the value through the sale.
Absolutely. No, especially now more than ever, customers definitely want to feel heard, valued, and appreciated, and they don't need to be put on a pedestal. Believe me, there are those people out there who do. We're all going to run into them, right? But for the most part, as long as people think that you're listening and that your true intentions are to help them in a professional and integral manner, that's really looking out for their best interest, they're more than happy to make a decision. They're out looking for something, right? They're wanting to get this done.
100%.
It's not sport or a hobby.
Well, that's just it. And what I talk all the time about how, especially in the automotive world, all your customers that walk through the dealership doors have done their research. They know what they want. They know what make, what model, what finance or leasing rate they want to pay. They know what trim level they're looking for. They've done the research. It's all there for them. So when they walk through the doors, they're choosing you. And that's the only thing you have to do, is create that relationship and sell through the relationship. How do you think that the relationship selling style differs? Like, what's that kind of pivotal turning point where it becomes more of building that relationship versus sales? And what is the differentiator? What is that key difference?
Well, I would say the number one key difference is salesperson's mentality, and this is really where I went from making $80,000 a year to making well into six figures, right? And I jumped quick. And that's when I quit looking at the end outcome for myself, and I started looking at the end outcome for every customer. And so I looked at every customer as an experience and a challenge, not like an arm wrestle challenge, but like a challenge like, hey, I'm going to give them an excellent experience. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to find out about their family. I'm going to get pumped up. But when you're putting the customer first, I think that's more relationship based, rather than just trying to pull every trick out of the bag or do whatever needs to be done, or cut price or intimidate or bring in fresh faces or manipulate or anything like that. A lot of old school selling. You will get sales sometimes with that non-relationship. Old school's kind of just basic, right to the point. Here's your product, but the customers aren't going to have as much of an experience, And so therefore you aren't going to get as much repeat and referral business, nor are you going to have the trust factor, which is where dealerships can pick up extra profit on a transaction, because, automotive vehicle transactions themselves are a very small percentage, that a lot of times they really rely on income coming from other areas. And when the customer trusts the salesperson, they trust the place of business, they trust the leadership, they trust the product, right? They trust all these things. Now they're going to trust the salesperson when he or she says, hey, I recommend getting this extended service plan because you tend to keep your vehicles for 6 years, and it's peace of mind, right? You're paying $30 a month now, but guess what? In 4 years, when you're out of warranty and you've got a $4,000 fix, it's the same month your little Sally has braces, right? And it's the way it works out. So I recommend that. So now they see value in it because you're the trusted advisor, right? You're not just a salesperson that, hey, well, what if I give you an extra 50 off today, and they just keep cutting price, because when you cut price, all you're doing is you cut value. I rarely ever cut price, and I only do it at the end if I feel like it's an arm wrestling and they need that like little push, right? Like they need that feeling.
Yeah.
But I always save it for the end. Like, okay, well, there's no sense in talking price until you know what the price is, but until you're ready to commit, and I know you're at this point, then I'll work with you. But until now, I need to know you're ready to commit and you're at this point. Otherwise, it's just conversation.
Well, and and I want to. You make such a strong point with the use of trust, and I want to kind of go back to that, because I think trust. I mean, number one, let's face it, customers don't trust anybody in the dealership. The transparency, unfortunately, it's very clouded, and it's foggy, and customers feel like they have to fight their way through this foggy storm when they walk through the doors. But when it comes to trust, at least I believe that every customer has this, or every sales associate has a kind of zero balance trust account with every customer that comes through the door. And it's up to them to put positive deposits in that trust account so that when we do drop the ball, when they feel like we haven't done a great job somewhere along the journey, we have some sort of equity in that trust account. What would you say, and I'm going to preface where I'm going to go with this next, because I'm going to throw you a little curveball, because we didn't talk about this prior, but I want to talk about trust in the female consumer and what you think about that. But first, what would you say is like the number one thing that sales associates can do through the relationship selling process to earn trust with their customers?
I think first and foremost is a great greeting. Eye contact is very important. Okay. The other thing, because all this trust is really going to get built like in the first 45 seconds. So it's going to be your appearance, how you hold yourself, right? How you handle the meet and greet, how you introduce yourself, how you get their names, make sure to get, both the husband, the wife, the kids get their names. Always say something kind of fun to the kids. Good eye contact. I believe in a good handshake, or at least sending yourself out. I mean, that's kind of old school business. They've been doing it forever. I know now people say that it's offensive or this or that, but I still believe in it. I like to deal with people that put out their hand to shake their hand. It's kind of a bond building, relationship building, right? 1,000-year-old process.
For sure.
But doing that, and then asking questions and listening to the answers. Because, see, when we get the customers talking about themselves and they get themselves explaining themselves to us, I mean, I've been in 10,000, automobile negotiations. So, I mean, I know when a customer stand off and what their fears are, and I've been through it. I mean, I can walk through, car deals in my sleep backwards. And because I've been through it so many times and I know where their mentality is going. But it's when you ask questions, listen, always ask questions in the beginning, but make sure that you're depositing those answers, and don't just ask ridiculous questions just to ask questions, but ask questions to find out that shows them, wow, this man or woman is a professional and they know what they're doing and they really care about me and what I want.
And
so
I think
when you do that, they trust you beginningly as a professional. And then they start to like you. But, eye contact is always very important. I was always great at eye contact. I've had some of the greatest compliments from big CEOs and everything. They're always like, you have some of the most amazing eye contact I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, when I'm talking with somebody and it's about business, I'm like, I am so locked in. I'm like, I guarantee nobody will have better eye contact than me.
That's a skill, though. That's a skill.
Right.
I just recently had a few weeks ago a service experience for myself, and I actually chatted about it on one of my shows. And essentially, I had zero eye contact. This service advisor did not make eye contact with me for over 9 minutes. Like, he was heads down, speaking to his tablet, and would not make eye contact with me. It was just insane. And I'm like, am I here? And it really is a way to make sure that person in front of you feels like the priority in that moment, even though you've got a million things swimming in your head. So let's jump over to trust and the female consumer, because the one thing that you brought up was, you've got a lot of great tips. So making sure that the greet is important. I think that, showing and advancing your hand to handshake is a sign of respect, and I think that's a great thing. But how do you feel about when a man and a woman come into the dealership? How do you earn the trust with her? Because she essentially influences over 85% of all vehicle purchases. Correct. And purchases 65% of all new vehicles. We out-purchase men in North America. So what would you say, all the gentlemen listening today, and even the ladies, what do you think we can do to build trust? And relationships are so important to the female consumer, way more important to her than it is to him. How do we build that trust with the female consumer in your experience?
Yeah, and, I obviously sold a lot of vehicles to females. And whenever, I saw so many, and I started in 2000, so it was still even, the Wild West back then, even more, archaic than it is now. And I don't think it's truly archaic right now. I think it could use some upgrades and some advancements and getting with some trends. But I always made sure that I spent as much time with the woman, with the wife, the spouse, the girlfriend, what have you. And I talk about this all the time in my training, as I do with the man. I also make sure to not treat them different. You'll see when sometimes salespeople will kind of talk down to women about vehicles, because just by nature, over the last 50 years or since automobiles, men have gotten more excited by automobiles by the average, right, than females over the years. So that might be just some kind of subconscious stereotype that men kind of have, that, oh, well, men talk about gear ratios and this and that, and women are like, hey, it's all-wheel drive and it has sync and this, and it gets me to work. They're not as usually focused about the nuts and bolts. So that could be part of it. But make sure you give them 50%. What I would see a lot with men is they would come in. This is a classic example, and I probably had it happen like 150 times. It was a classic example. And the man would come in and, don't talk to me. It's for my wife. Talk to her. Right. So you do your meet and greet, you introduce yourself. Right. So I start fact finding, investigating, and identifying, as I call it, with the wife. Right. So what is the guy exactly are you looking for? What are you driving now? What do you like best about that vehicle? What did you wish that vehicle had? Are there any features that you've got your heart set on? Right. And then the husband would always jump in. Right. So he pulls in, so he's pulling you back over to here, right? So now you're in conversation with her, but now he's pulling you over here. Well, after a little while, I got conscious that he didn't really know what he was doing. I really didn't realize, because I'm getting addressed, right? So now I'm just responding, and I'm not really like thinking, but she's seeing exactly what happened. Like, again, I get no respect. So I think that you just make a little bit more of, treat men and women the same. I think whenever you try and treat somebody different than the other, it comes off as ungenuine and fake and tacky. So I think treat them both the same. Make sure that you are treating the woman the same as you would a man. Make sure that when you're asking questions that this is what so many salespeople and so many people don't do is, you can tell if somebody's really listening, is ask them a question and then don't, or have them ask you a question and then start talking and then quit answering it or something, right? And if they don't say like, hey, you didn't finish, it's like, they weren't listening. So make sure that you're listening, that you're thoroughly giving them the process, and know that a lot of times too, they don't like the aggressive approach. They sometimes often like to take their time a little bit more. And I think, as far as when it comes to buying, I think sometimes women are actually more rational than men. And so I think, really make it a rational experience to where, men get excited about something sometimes, I think, when it comes to a vehicle more often. And, I've seen men do it, that, they come in and they're like, they'll go way over their budget and they'll do all this because they just saw something and they're like, I have to have it. They just kind of like lose it or what have you. So, but most importantly, treat men and women the same. Address them the same, give them the same level of courtesy, respect, make sure that you're listening to them, and, just deliver on what you said you're going to do. Stay away from the aggressive tactics, the tricks, and then just know that oftentimes they do take a little bit longer, and, they do not respond well to aggressive or salesy approaches.
100%. And I mean, most definitely they don't, women, and at least through my research, I have found that women, to your point, take a little bit longer. But the reason why is because they want to create that relationship. They need to feel that trust. And while the purchase may not be emotional, the shopping experience is for them. And so there's a key differentiator there. The purchase is not emotional at all. You hit the nail on the head. It is very rational for what they need and want. But building that trust and that relationship is so important. So to make sure that, you're treating them equally, but you're constantly building that trust. That was awesome tips. I hope everybody, and I'm seeing some of these comments here. Carlos says you have to be you, not who the dealer wants you to be. So he's loving this right now. This is fantastic. Everyone, Kayla, is having great advice, Noel. So awesome. We've got a lot of great little comments on here that we'll make sure we get back to everybody. And I got to give a shout out to Kyla. I can't wait to come back to Utah. I will be there in a couple weeks. So thank you for joining us today. All right. So what else? What other tips can you give us in terms of relationship selling, or how to conquer what you go after? How to conquer, as you put it, how you conquer what you chase. What is, if our audience could do one thing different to transform their experience that they provide, or even transform their life, what is the one thing that they could do differently? Like they could take away from this show right now that would help them be better?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's kind of like, what's the secret of life? But so let me wrap my head around this one here. To conquer what you chase. That's my acronym. That's the words that I live by. Is live in the present, focusing on the future. Not being consumed by the future. Don't live in the past, but really know what it is that you want to do every day. As far as like a being, know what it is you want to do every day, and then do it. I mean, I've been to where I've been workaholic, and then I've been to where I've been an entrepreneur the last 3.5 years full time. That, I mean, I don't have to do anything every day, but I have a million things to do every day, right? So it's really kind of getting your head around that. But as far as in sales, the whole thing is sales is an art. It's the approach, the relationship building, and the trickle selling, right? So that's really how it is. So make sure that you have your approach down. We talked about some things in this right here in this video, in this show. Make sure that you have your approach down. Know that anything worthwhile does not come right away, right? Anything worthwhile does not come right away. So know that you have to work for it. The future is in the follow-up. And although that's tough, my wife helps me. We probably made like 70 calls today, and we had a big dealer group from the East Coast that we've been calling on for 2 or 3 weeks that called us today. And I mean, we probably made, some days we make 40 calls and don't get anything, right? We get voicemails and assistance and, transferred over here and email addresses. So you have to do that consistent follow-up. But most importantly, you do have to find what you want to do. I mean, I think some of these memes they're like trying to tell everybody like go start your own, your own business. But obviously, some people do have to work, and it takes a lot of work. Starting your business does take a lot of work. So really focus on and go after. I mean, just like what Conquer What You Chase says, focus on and go after what it is you truly want and go about that a little bit more every day. And sometimes you might not see the light. Sometimes you might not get any water out of the spigot. But if you keep going, you continue on, you will eventually conquer what you chase and you will create success.
That is some amazing advice, and I mean, I could unpack that all day long because there's so many pieces there. I think I said one thing, but that's a lot of things. No, I'm joking. But it's honestly, it's fantastic advice, and there are a few pieces there that I wouldn't mind unpacking. And one is, I mean, do what you love and go after it and really conquer that. And I think a lot of us live in a fear-based or scarcity-based mentality where we're afraid to give to others, but we're also afraid to move past our own fears to actually live our true realization. So I love that that's your mantra, to move past your fear, essentially to be courageous, find what you love, and do it every day, and do a little bit every day, because you're right, you don't have to do anything every day, but you have a million things to do. So really making sure that you choose that. The other piece that I absolutely love that you said is that, sales is an art. The customer experience, I believe designing a customer experience is a true art form. But the one place that I find, not just automotive, but organizations in general, where, from a sales perspective, where we drop the ball a lot is in the follow-up. We forget, once that customer walks out the door, we forget they exist. And for a female or male consumer, one or the other, that follow-up is you being top of mind. And you're right, you may not, hit it home right away. I mean, I've been following up with somebody that I met 2 months ago, and finally I'm going to be able to sit down with her on Saturday, but it's been a constant follow-up. And from a consumer standpoint and a relationship selling standpoint, I think the best relationships are actually created in the follow-up. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, no, I do agree. Other than the sales experience, up until that point, I would say it is in the follow-up, yes. Beforehand and afterhand. But yeah, that's when you really drive the nail home, because anybody can tell you what you want. Right? They can tell you everything. It's going to be roses and wine and daisies, and you're just going to be so happy and everything's going to be perfect. And then, in that contract sign, we've all been there on various different things, right? And then all of a sudden it's like you call them back and you're like, hey, it's I got something in the mail that I need this form, and they don't call back, and it's like, hey, this is my mortgage here. Like, it's a lot of money, So it is in the follow-up. It shows you care. And I also teach the wave of three, so I'm dropping a lot of nuggets tonight, is, follow up always in three forms. Whether it's a handwritten note, an email, in a text, or a letter, a phone call, and an email. But always follow up in three forms in the beginning, and have them lead off of each other. So you're really driving that message home, and this is if it's follow up, for possible purchase, or a bot follow up. And when you're following up on a sold customer, I think in a very professional way, if you did a good job, I think every salesperson in a professional way, not a tacky way, but should be asking for referrals from somebody that bought from them, because you have to realize if you gave them a good experience and they trusted you and liked you enough to do business with you, and they're happy with the final product and the process that you put them through, that you earned the right to ask them for referrals. And once again, it's all in the approach. I do courses in negotiation. Negotiation is an art, right? I do courses in closing. Closing is an art. That, everything is an art. It's the approach, the relationship, and then the trickle selling. We never want to come in with the avalanche and try and sell them every single product that we offer within our whole 20-acre facility. We want to come in and find out what's most meaningful to them, and then find out more, And once we built that trust, that gives us the opportunity to trickle sell.
You're giving so many nuggets tonight. I hope everybody's hearing this. I absolutely love that follow up in 3 forms, making sure that you are, I love being a customer experience guru, the handwritten note. It's so underrated. It's inexpensive, but with the world of technology, nobody receives mail anymore.
Yes.
And to receive that in an envelope that's, handwritten address, making sure that their name is handwritten, that really shows you care, because we're just so used to firing off text messages and emails. And even we don't even pick up the phone anymore. So I love the fact that you talk about the handwritten note, because it will completely knock your customers off their feet, as well as picking up the phone and almost leaving the email to last, because essentially it's going to the junk box, or it's being missed, or so I absolutely love that. And you're right, the asking for referrals, that's fantastic. I think we are afraid. We're afraid that maybe that we didn't provide that experience, or that we didn't create a deep enough relationship, so we don't move past our fear and ask for referrals. So that is definitely an art. And everyone here, I hope you are, seeing and hearing all of the nuggets that Noel's giving us, because he is the master at selling and motivating your sales team and training them to a point where they are going to be able to sell through relationships, create an experience, master the greet, follow up like a pro, and really know how to negotiate. So I hope everyone here has has taken out their notebook and actually written all of these writables down, because there have been a lot. Thank you so much, Noel. It's been so awesome. Anything else you want to leave with the audience? I have a tendency to talk a lot. I don't know if you've noticed. As an interviewer, I'm talking a lot. But is there anything else that you want to leave the audience? That one last golden nugget, that they can take away with them?
No, real quick is one thing. I talk a lot too. So I used to tell my customers when I was really amped up and I sold like 3 or 4 cars in a row, and I'm like, anything that, because when my smile was on, I was like, all right, I'm going to talk about my daughter with a smile, and nobody could say no. I'm like, they just can't. I knew it happened. And so I'd get people, I'd say, hey, I've got 3 things. I'm like, I talk fast, I walk fast, and I smile a lot. Is that going to be a problem? And they think about it, and they're like, no, not at all. But I'm like, I talk fast, I walk fast, and I smile a lot. Is that going to be a problem? But, most importantly is sales every day is what you make of it. The number one thing I would recommend for salespeople is this is what I've really been trying to drive home, especially in my in-house training and my coaching, is the average salesperson across all industries, not just automotive, uses about 15 to 20% of their day, right? So I hear that I work 60 hours a week, but 15% of 60 hours is 9 hours, right? So they work 9 hours a week. So I think if you're going to work at a dealership, I see so many of these salespeople, and it's like, wait, you work 60 hours a week, but you're basically making minimum wage. You could go work at McDonald's and work less hours and probably make the same amount. Like, why are you not grabbing this by the horns and taking it like a career? Because nobody's going to give you anything in sales. In sales, every sale you've got to work for. Sometimes they appear to come easy, but it's because of all the groundwork or some scenario that had happened before that. But, utilize 80% of your day. Get a process down. Utilize all your assets. I've been teaching a lot about prospecting lately. Make sure you're actively using 5 prospecting tools. Whether you're sending out, I was a big thank you. I sent thank you for stopping in cards. I sent thank you for buying cards. And, my thank you for buying card, I wrote the same message in it for about 10 years straight, where I talked about the review and I asked for referrals. And I also touched base on how I accommodated their family, right? Thank you for giving me the opportunity to earn and accommodate your family's business, right? I always left it with words like that, because that's what I did for you. It's not like, oh, you bought for me like I'm a dog that needs a bone. It's like, no, I accommodated your family's business. You're dealing with one of the best in the country. So know that. But I wrote the same message in it every single time, right? So some of these people, I sold like 15 cars. So every time they opened up their thank you card, it had the same message. But what mattered was they knew that I cared and they knew it was genuine, right? And that I wrote it. And
Yes.
that was me. And that's why so many people like me. I'm from the Midwest. They don't like change there. But most importantly, use 80% of your day. Do the things that you know are right. Stay away from the negative circles, and more importantly, I do sales training, right? That's how I make my living. But invest in yourself. We're Catholics. We used to go to Catholic church. My priest would always say when we lived in Michigan, give your time, talent, and treasures, right? He'd always say, give one of the three
I
to the
love
church,
that.
right?
Time, talent, and treasures.
Talent, or treasures.
Oh my gosh, that's a writable. That needs to be written down. Time, talent, or treasures.
Oh, he was the best. He was a Walsh too. But if you don't have the money, give your time, right? If you don't have the time or the money, give your talents, right? If you don't have the talent or the time, give your money, right? So give something for training. I listen to 20, 30 minutes of training every day. I usually do it. I get a couple websites that I get emails from every day, and they usually have some training videos, and they've got a bunch of different trainers, TEDx female women, you got your old Brian Tracy. It's always a big mix of them. And so I'll pick out one or two that I want to listen to when I'm checking my emails in the morning. But start your day off right. Do some kind of training. When you start investing in yourself, that's really where you start to see your career go. That's really, I remember I used to think that I made $150,000 selling cars, like that was the peak. And the guy who used to be the best, he left, and then I became the best, came back, and he's like, yeah, what do you make? And I told him, and I'm like, you can't make much more than that here. Well, I started investing and going to conferences, and I started making more money every single year. My last year, so keep in mind, this was in 2012 when I told him that, right? I basically said,
yeah.
I hit the ceiling. You can't make any more money here. It's impossible, right? Worst thing for a motivator to say. But so in 2016, I worked 24 weeks, and made that same amount of money.
Wow.
So,
all right.
So what I said 4 years before was impossible.
You nailed it and hit it out of the park. That's right. Insane. And I couldn't agree more with what your daily routine is. And investing in yourself. Like for myself, it's getting up super early. I invest in myself in meditation. That's so important to me. Working out, taking the time before the whole house wakes up with my 3 crazy kids that are going to run around and totally disturb my day. Without that, when I started doing that, that's when life really started and professionally started to really take off. So investing in yourself is extremely important. And I think that's a great message to leave off on, because that's what Transformation at the Core and this show is really about. It's about investing in yourself, investing in your systems and your people and your processes that bring your experience together and really truly make the core of your business, but also the core of who you are. And if you don't have a strong core, if you don't have your values in place, your process in place, your 80% of your day nailed down, then you're not very strong, which means you're not going to be able to serve others. So I think that's a great way to leave off the show. But before we go, you need to tell everybody how they can find you and how they can learn more from you.
Yes. So you can go to my website, which is the letter N, the letter W, the letter N, the letter A, salestraining.com. So NWNA, salestraining.com is my website. You can also look me up. I'm all over social media. I'm pretty heavy on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page, NWNA Sales Training, but all over social media. Also, you can email me. It's my name, which is spelled Noel at NWNASalesTraining.com. So my first name at my website. And, feel free to look me up on my website. I've got my contact information there. If you want more information about Conquer You, everything that I covered tonight in this broadcast, in this show, is covered in Conquer You in different courses and different training modules and different test outs and exams and speaking points. It's by far the most comprehensive automotive sales training on the market, I believe. I had 3. I had 2. Actually, one guy was getting with me. He's almost done, but I had 2 veteran automotive salespeople in Southern California who are the top salespeople at their dealership that did 55, and they both have like 20 years of experience, both completed over 55 hours of training in under 90 days, first time ever. So that's how good it is. When you have veterans that are going after it like that,
That's
who are
awesome.
at the tops of their game, and they're doing a course a day, they're doing a half hour of training every single day.
Yeah, that's when you know it's got to be decent to get in there.
It's good, right?
Fantastic. Well, everybody, you gotta check out Noel Walsh's Conquer You. Everybody says they don't have time to invest in themselves and they don't have time to do all of this. Well, make yourself a priority and do it in a way that is easy to shift your time around. It's not going to a class. It's not having somebody come in. It's, whenever you have that time is to sign in and get it done. And so make yourself a priority and make it a priority to visit all of Noel's social contacts and social handles. Visit his website because these nuggets are amazing. They are gold. And thank you so much for being on the show today, Noel. I'm really excited that you were able to be here.
It was my pleasure. It was an honor to be on your show, and I'm really glad we connected.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being on today. And again, a big thank you to Noel. Let's look forward to our next show, Transformation at the Core, next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will go live with episode 9. So thanks everyone for joining. And again, a big thank you and a big shout out to Noel Walsh, who was on sharing all the nuggets of how you can conquer your what you chase and also elevate your experience through relationship selling. Well, have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.